Street, college football playoff round 2 is here, and now the games get real interesting. We're going to give you our predictions and what to expect. This is the Nitro College Football Show. Like, subscribe, and comment below. Did you have a good Christmas?
I did. It was Christmas at home with the kids, and then we went to my mom's, and stressful, but we got through it.
Yep, that's Christmas.
Indeed.
So we do have college football semifinals coming up this week, not this weekend, but this week. January 1st, right around the corner, New Year.
Well, starting
Hopeful,
starting on New Year's Eve. The
yeah, New
first
Year's
game is
Eve.
yeah. So yeah, yesterday was the last Saturday college football of the year. Everything else is not on Saturdays from here on out. So
Pouring out for Saturday college football.
yep.
Okay, so let's talk about the Rose Bowl. This is probably the most intriguing matchup of the week. Alabama is taking on number 1 Indiana, and Indiana surprisingly is only favored by 7. I mean, that's surprising to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at the way Alabama has played over the second half of the season, and the way that Indiana has steamrolled through everybody, beat Ohio State, who everybody thought was going undefeated to win, and headed for another national championship, and they still might be, but Indiana beat them. Yeah, you would think this spread would be higher than that. Um, but it's Alabama, right? And a couple little things go right for Alabama, and everybody remembers that they have great players on their roster. And that's the reason that I think you see a spread like that. It's a little bit more
Yeah.
based on historical view and prestige, and a little less based on the results that you've seen on the field.
Well, I think when you start digging into some of the games that Indiana's played, you've noticed that when they play against a stout defense, and you can say this for any team really, but for them it's just more pronounced. But when they play a stout defense, their offensive production goes down a great deal, like exponentially. We saw it against Ohio State, saw it against Iowa. They actually scored pretty well against Oregon. And you look at this Alabama team, and they do have a pretty good defense. They've got some players that can cause havoc. They have a good pass rush, and sometimes that's all you need
Yeah.
against a high-powered offense.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing you really need to consider when looking at this game on both sides is injuries. First and foremost, we've talked a lot about Alabama's injury problems. They're getting a little bit healthier because they've had some time. But even last week, Tim Keenan got banged up in practice. They were hoping to get LT Overton back. He got banged up on the same day. So they're both kind of questionable heading into that. And if you're missing Overton off that D line is one thing, but if you're missing Keenan too, that's going to be real tough for an Alabama team that has not been great on rush defense this
Right.
year. And on the flip side, on Indiana, Indiana lost their best defensive end celebrating the win over Ohio State. Stephen Daly was celebrating on the sideline, and he's out. He led the Big Ten in tackles for loss this year. He had 5.5 sacks. So what does that mean for Indiana? They might even have to switch up their scheme a little bit, play a little bit more 3-3-5 than what they have, just to compensate for losing who is their dominant, edge rusher. So injuries are going to play a part in this game. Alabama's getting healthier on the offensive side of the ball. Cuevas, should be back full bore. Jam Miller continues to be banged up, but a couple weeks, every little bit to get healthier will help them out in that front.
And Indiana losing their defensive guy who leads the Big Ten in tackles for loss. That's actually pretty huge.
Right.
Like, that's a big
Totally.
deal. And we don't really know how deep Indiana is.
That's the one thing. That's like I talked about with the spread a little bit. And I'm in talking with family members and things this week about this game, I said, "This Indiana team, as a team, is playing fantastic, but they overall recruiting rankings and things like that, they are not viewed as this highly talented team. They are a good team that is playing fantastic. Where you have an Alabama team that is a fantastically talented team, but hasn't been playing as great, right? So you've got
Yeah.
kind of two other ends. And when you get those two items together, you don't know how that's going to mix because any given day, we've seen Alabama go on the road and beat Georgia. We've seen them play against ranked teams and win, but we've also seen them look like total trash against Florida State and against Georgia. So it's a little bit unknown there about what Alabama team shows up. I think with Indiana, I think you know what you're going to get. They don't
Yeah,
have to.
I would agree with that. And yeah, Alabama is such a weird team. I mean, because they took it to Oklahoma last week, beat the crap out of them.
Well, but let's. Did they? It was 17-0.
I
And then
mean,
and then
it,
Oklahoma started doing stupid things to let Alabama back in the game. They threw that horrible pick six. Like they they let Alabama get that momentum back. They were on the ropes. That first quarter, they looked just like the
oh
Alabama
yeah,
team that you saw against Georgia.
first quarter, Oklahoma was dominating, but after that, it was all Alabama.
Right, but even in coming back to win that game, Alabama still couldn't run the football
No,
at all. They still had problems with drops. Now their receivers, Brian Williams had 2 drops. A couple other receivers had drops. They were able to compensate. But just remember that it was 17-0 and they had to go for it on a 4th down inside the 10-yard line. If they didn't get that 4th down touchdown, it would have been 17-0 and it probably would have been that going into half at least. Instead it was a tie ball game. So couple little things happened, stupid things happened that allowed a team like Alabama that has that talent to get back in the game. Um,
yeah, and all that being said, Indiana has an offense, whereas Oklahoma, their offense
right.
not the best.
I think that's the difference. Oklahoma was a defensive football team that was struggling in offense. Indiana's the number 4 scoring offense in the country, and they're the number 2 scoring defense in the country.
Yeah,
They're good all around. They have not had problems. They've got the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. If you need somebody, if you're in a situation, Oklahoma had John Mateer, who hasn't played well since he got hurt and was just trying to find his way through. Indiana's got the Heisman Trophy winner, who, with their backs against the wall this season, multiple occasions, has risen up and made plays in that Penn State game, at the end of that Ohio State game. Fantastic throws. He's playing his best
yeah,
ball of his career. He won that award for a reason. So I think that's a little bit different. They're not going to be counting on him to make some mistake because he's probably not going to, because that's what Indiana has been. They don't make those big mistakes. They
right.
just play well.
And you can count on Bama to make a few mistakes in the game. That's since DeBoer's been there. There's always that in their DNA now. That you never saw that with Saban, but you got to expect they're going to make some mistakes. If Bama has any shot to win this game, Ty Simpson's going to have a Georgia type game, like when they played earlier in the season, and he was damn near perfect.
Yeah, but the difference there is Georgia, especially at that point in the season,
The
had
defense was not very good.
no well, had no pass rush at all.
Yeah,
None. Indiana's number 6 in the country in sacks. Indiana gets to the quarterback and they come and they bring blitzes and they bring guys and they get to the quarterback. So the real problem with Bama here that I see in this game is Alabama hasn't been able to run the football all season long, and especially when they've played good rushing defenses. Well, what happened when Bama played Georgia, the number 4 rushing defense in the country, a few weeks ago? They had negative 3 yards rushing.
-3.
When they were playing Oklahoma in the first half last week, how many yards did they have at halftime rushing the football?
-3.
-3 yards. Well, now you go play Indiana, who has the number 3 rush defense in the country. Not saying they're gonna end
Plus
up with
plus
negative yards.
3.
Right. But I don't see this as the game where Alabama's suddenly gonna find their identity on the ground. So
No,
you
no, their whole identity is Ty Simpson or bust.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So if they can't run the football and Indiana can pressure Ty Simpson, and we've seen Ty Simpson when he's gotten pressured, he's not as good, i.e., the Florida State game early in the year, the Georgia game later in the year. This just doesn't, to me, with Bama having no rushing attack and Indiana being so consistent on defense, it doesn't give me confidence that Alabama's going to be able to move the football consistently in this game.
It's gonna be a struggle. It's gonna be an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah.
So, you ready to give a pick?
I'm ready, man. Like I said, on the flip side, Alabama is number 30 in the country against the rush. And so while everybody thinks about Indiana and Fernando Mendoza lighting it up, passing the ball, I think this is a game for Roman Hemby to have a big game to kind of show out a little bit. I think it's going to be close because, like I said, Bama is a good football team, just not playing that great. But I think Indiana's going to win the game. Give me Indiana 27, Alabama 21.
That is close. I don't think it's gonna be close. When I was going back and forth on this for, the historical part of, my brain thinking about Alabama, kept telling myself, man, maybe Alabama has a chance. Maybe Alabama has a chance. Okay, maybe they can keep it close. But then the more I dug into the numbers and looked at the games and everything, the more I was like, man, I don't I don't think this is going to be close. So I'm actually taking Indiana 31, Bama 17. Um,
Woo-hoo.
yeah, but still taking the under.
Yeah.
uh, but the reason is, Bama's defense, they won't be able to contain Indiana's offense. The defense is hit or miss. Um, and Ty Simpson's not going to be able to be the whole offense like we were talking about. He's going to get harassed, and Indiana's probably going to end up with a boatload of sacks. And with Bama not having a running game, there's really not much that they're going to be able to do on offense. This
Yeah.
could get ugly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been a different story for Alabama under DeBoer. Under Nick Saban, when Alabama did lose a game, it was always close. But in the 2 years under DeBoer, they've had 3 losses by, multiple touchdowns, and then they've lost some close games too. So it's just not. You're right. It's not the same Alabama team. It's not the history. It's what Alabama is right now. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think there's a chance that Bama keeps it close and could pull it out, but the stats and everything else say that this is Indiana's game to win.
The odds are not in their favor.
No.
But if you're watching live with us, hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment, let us know what you think about the pick. Who do you have in the Rose Bowl, Bama or Indiana? Give us your scores. Okay. So in the Cotton Bowl, we have number 10, Miami, taking on number 2, Ohio State. Ohio State's a 9.5-point favorite, which is a pretty big number.
Yeah. I mean, oh, is that the biggest spread? Yeah, that's the biggest
It
spread
is. Yeah.
in these quarterfinal games. Think about it this way: Miami was the last team in, right? I mean, the other 2 got in just because they were conference champions. So Miami was the last team in. So if you're thinking about the college basketball tournament, this is your 11 seeds, those guys that are playing in that playoff game of your at-larges. This is your last bid in. So turning around and playing the 2 seed, the overall 2 seed, That doesn't work out usually too well in college basketball.
Yeah, but in this particular case, I would have expected this point spread to be flipped with the Rose Bowl point spread.
Yeah, yeah, maybe a little bit closer. Yeah,
And the reason I say that is, I think this is going to be a low scoring game. You have both defenses are in the top 5 of scoring
yeah,
defense.
I absolutely agree there. This is going to be
Eh,
a low scoring football game. Ohio State is not. They are this crazy defensive juggernaut, right? They're only giving up 8 points a game. Historical levels, they're not the same that they've been crazy offensive team. They have good offense, but Ohio State has only played 3 games against ranked teams this year. They've only averaged 17 points a game in those 3 games. So, they're still they're still like a top 10 scoring team, top 15 scoring team in the country, but they have beat up on their weak parts of their schedule. Those tough games, they played it close and they've won with defense.
yeah, and I expect this just to be a slugfest, just like Miami, Texas A&M was,
Yeah,
just with better weather.
yeah. Well, if you're thinking about Miami, okay, Miami totally shut down Texas A&M. Texas A&M came into that game last week averaging 36 points a game. They held them to 3. Ohio State comes into this game averaging 34 points a game. So, if Miami's going to win, they're going to have to put on another Herculean level defensive performance like they did last week.
Yes,
Because
yes.
because like we said, this Ohio State defense has given up 8 points a game. And Miami, Miami has not been exactly lighting it up crazy the second half of the season. They've been a lot more consistent, but they haven't been lighting it up.
But they did find a great running game.
They did.
And when
Mark
you
Mark
pair a great running game with a great defense, you have a chance.
Yeah. I mean, Mark Fletcher was everything in that game against Texas A&M, especially in that second half. Guy couldn't be tackled. And, you know, lots of people are going to point to Carson Beck, right? This is a Carson Beck who started off great, had that kind of lull in the middle of the year where people were scratching their heads. Oh, this is Carson Beck. Last 5 games, man. Last week, yeah, his stats weren't great, but they didn't ask him to do much. It was a lot like Gunnar Stockton's last few games have been. They didn't really ask him to do too much in that wind and everything. Last 5 games, Carson Beck, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty dang good. And they've played some good competition in those games. So he's been solid. If he's not asked to do too much and they can run the football, then that's a way for Miami to, to stay in this game. But like you
Yeah.
said, I
I mean,
I
but we really haven't seen Carson Beck step up in the big games.
right.
The best one that I can think of is the Alabama game when Georgia went to Alabama last year. And that was a crap game because Bama was just beating the crap out of Georgia all the way up to through the second half,
But he still had
into the
2
second
picks.
half.
He still had 2 picks in that
He
game.
still had 2 picks, but I mean, then he went on a tear,
Yeah.
making great throws and had the lead for a second.
Yeah.
So, but then you look at, the Texas games that he had. He threw 3 picks against Texas in the first one and wasn't playing very well in the first half of the SEC championship.
Yeah.
So that's, and then the year before, didn't play well in the SEC championship, lost to Bama, cost yourself a spot in the CFP.
Right. Yeah. They yeah. He hasn't
Track,
he
track
hasn't sh-
record's not great.
It's not. It's not. Like I said, this game is all about, can you not make mistakes and can you win it and have your defense for both sides really keep you in it, because Miami's got 2 losses and those were their 2 lowest scoring games of the year outside of the game last week. They didn't score that much in those games and they lost those games. So Miami, when they aren't scoring, even though their defense has been really good, they've got to find a way to mix that formula up. Because like I said, they're not gonna score a ton on Ohio State. Let's just say that Miami plays incredibly well and they double Ohio State's average on the season. That's 16 points. I mean,
Yeah,
and that's having a hell of a game, right? One interesting stat about these defenses that I did notice is interesting is, Ohio State, they've got the historic level defense. They're only 25th in the country in sacks. Miami, on the other hand, is 4th. So Miami is doing a better job at getting the quarterback. Ohio State is more that defense, I guess, that's gonna, kind of like Georgia, is gonna sit
kind of
back,
like Georgia. It's more about havoc rate and,
right,
and
and
just
keep it in
affecting the
front of
quarterback.
you.
Yeah,
I think another thing to watch, and it could be potentially the most important stat of this game, is third down, particularly when Ohio State has the football on third down. Ohio State is the number 2 team in the country on third down, 54% conversion rate.
and they do have the
Miami
most accurate quarterback in college
and
football, in
right,
college football
history.
history, right?
Right. Miami, on the flip side of that, though, is really, really freaking good on third down, holding teams to 31%. So to me, right there, that could be your difference maker. Ohio State's third down offense versus Miami's third down defense. If Ohio State is converting third downs, much like we saw in that Georgia Alabama game early in the year, they stay on the field. They don't have to score a lot to win if they can stay on the field. Both of these teams are big time of possession teams as well. Both of them average about 33 and a half minutes holding the ball per game. So they want to control it. They want to beat you down with their strong defenses. It's going to be a slugfest, man.
Yeah, and I'm here for it. The proverbial um screw it. I forgot what I was
It's
gonna
funny though.
say.
Both these teams have stars on offense, right? They both have these big time stars on offense, and I just don't think that those are going to be the people we're talking about after this game. I think it's going to be the defense. Ohio State,
Oh yeah,
you got Jeremiah Smith,
this game
Carnell
is all
Tate.
this game is all about the defense.
Yeah,
I mean, it's I think it's going to be very similar to Ohio State, Indiana.
yeah, yeah. Because Smith, Tate, Bo Jackson has emerged as a good running back, but then on the Miami side, you've obviously got Carson, you got Fletcher, you got Malachi Toney, who's explosive and crazy. I just think it's going to be small plays. It might be one of these guys making them, but I just don't think there's going to be a lot of these big plays in this game. I think it's just going to be a low scoring slugfest, and whoever can control the possession, get off the field on third down is going to win the game.
Win the turnover battle.
That too, though, like I said, as much as we laugh at Carson Beck and say he's turnover prone, 1 pick in his last 5 games. And we know Sayan doesn't throw that many interceptions. Yeah, I think he had one against Indiana, but
So we may have just jinxed both of them.
we could have.
Primed them up. Carson Beck is going to have a perfect game, and Say is going to have 5 picks.
Could be. And if that happens, then Georgia Ole Miss winner is going to be playing Miami and not Ohio State, and they'll be very happy, I think.
I think so. I think so. Although, I mean, if Miami were to pull this off, wow.
They're gonna be they're gonna have some confidence. Let's just say that a little Miami swagger might be back.
I mean, they'll have a win over what the number 3 SEC school and number 2 Big Ten school.
Yeah, and 2
Not
teams
bad.
that were in the top 5 pretty much all season. So
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun game. So I think it's gonna be low scoring, like we've been talking about, and I don't see a lot of explosive plays. It's gonna be I think there will be maybe like one play that stands out that changes the game. It'll be that type of game. But I have Ohio State winning 17, Miami 10.
yeah,
And
I'm right
reason
there with you.
yeah, and the
I've
reason
got Ohio
for
State
that
20, Miami 14, so I'm right in the same boat.
yeah. So I mean, I would say Ohio State should be on upset alert here because Miami could totally win this game, but I still think Ohio State's the better team. Ohio State has the best player on the field and the most accurate quarterback in college football history, where Miami has a great run game and the second best player on the field, Malachi Tony.
Yeah,
Malachi Tony is going to be the X factor in all of this. But at the end of the day, Sayan just makes less mistakes and Buckeyes win.
I agree.
And if you're watching with us live, give us a like. Hit that subscribe button. It's right there, down at the bottom right hand of your screen. Tell a friend. No, we appreciate everybody, though. Thank you for watching. Definitely give us a like, subscribe, follow us, hit us up on the socials. They're all listed there. And let's talk about them dogs.
Let's talk our dogs.
The Sugar Bowl. There's sugar falling out of the sky. So, number, I guess, 6 seed Ole Miss takes on 3 seed Georgia. Georgia only 6.5-point favorite here.
Yeah,
But
it's a close spread, but I mean, when you think about the two teams played earlier in the year, Ole Miss was up, up multiple scores in the fourth quarter. You see why? Because you know that Ole Miss can score. But on the flip side, you have to ask yourself, why is that 6.5? Because if I'm looking at these two teams, they are in two totally different spots than they were when they played in Athens early in the year. Ole Miss has continued to they've continued to be a good offensive football team. They've lost their head coach, which I think people are overplaying that. I don't really think that has much bearing on the game, to be honest with you. The system's in place and everything. All the assistants are there. So Kiffin not being there, okay. Um, but this Georgia team is a totally different Georgia team than the one that you saw when they played in Athens. And
yeah,
if you point to one day in the season when the lights came on for the Georgia defense and things clicked, it was in the fourth quarter of this game, where after giving up 5 straight touchdown drives, all of a sudden something happened and they shut them down the rest of the way. And it was at that point that the defense changed, that the defense could not get pressure, all of a sudden is getting pressure. Defense couldn't get sacks, all of a sudden they're getting sacks. Those corners that were young and inexperienced and couldn't cover shit are all of a sudden making all the plays. It was that day in Athens that
yeah.
things changed.
Agreed. I mean, that was a huge turning point because since that game, the most Georgia's given up is 21, and that was in a blowout win against Mississippi State, and there was some garbage time points there.
Right.
But you look at the last 4 games, Georgia hasn't given up more than 10 points. And that's
Was that
against
good?
some good competition.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Georgia defense has found itself.
Except for
And
Charlotte. Oh, yeah.
and while yeah. And while injuries are going to be a part of this, it looks like Georgia's going to be without Gabe Harris, who really has come on in the second half. Georgia dealt with the loss of Jordan Hall and they didn't miss a beat. And I think the way that the team has rotated guys and we've seen some other guys get some playing time in, as much as it sucks to not have Gabe Harris, I think they're going to be okay on that defensive front. I
I
really
do
do.
too. I do too. Because, I mean, you'll have Quintavious Johnson, who's been stepping up. We'll get to see more Elo Mendoza and maybe some
Maybe,
more,
maybe we'll see Illuminati.
maybe, yeah. But Joseph Jonah, say
Ajanye.
it. Ajanye, yes.
Yeah, he's gonna have to step up and play more. On the other side, Josh Horton, who had a big game when we played Ole Miss,
It's
he
true.
could get some more opportunities in there. I think as long as you got Christian Miller there in the middle, anchoring those guys, I think they'll be okay. There's what's his name? Gibson. Chance for Gibson to maybe play some too there on the D line. Hasn't played much. 5-star kid. Hasn't gotten the press that Elijah Griffin did, but could be a time for Gibson to get some playing time in there on the D line as well. Heard some good things in practice from him. So he could get, not saying he's going to come out there and play a lot, but get in the rotation, make some plays, kind of like Horton did earlier in the year there.
Yeah. But staying on the topic of injuries, Georgia's getting some key players back from injury.
Yeah, yeah. Rumors are that, well, not rumors because they were they had film of him at practice. Uh, Talon Taylor, who has not played since the Alabama game, will be back, and we know, even though he did drop that pass against Alabama, he got open, and we know that he's a five-star talent. So having Talon Taylor be back, Noah Thomas will be back. I know, he didn't play in the SEC championship game because of back spasms. Good to have him back out there. Ethan Barbour will be back after that devastating injury early in the year. He was tearing people up in practice, throwing people around. So that just adds to the already dominant tight end room. And then Colby Young, man, he's definitely out there at practice. Not sure if he's going to be more like a George Pickens type role was in 2021, where he's in, maybe has a few plays more as a decoy, some in there, but just could be limited
I was
concept
thinking
looking
more
like. But
AD Mitchell.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, the second year too, yeah. But like I said, just having him out there could be a decoy or whatever. So if you get him in there, just like Pickens had an impact, even though he didn't play much there in 21 during that national title run, just having those guys back, your big receivers, having Noah Thomas healthy and having Colby Young and Talon Taylor, I mean, that's going to be huge. That's just more weapons for Stockton to throw to. And Chauncey Bowens is finally going to be healthy again, everything I'm
That's
hearing.
huge.
That's
That's
huge.
huge.
Frazier, obviously. So get some health back in that running back room. Not so much where it was toward the end of the end of the Tech game where we had McCray and Frazier was even banged up, and that's all we had. I have our full complement of backs back there will help. I don't think
Mhm.
Bo Walker's going to be there because he's still coming off that broken jaw from that car accident. But other than that, definitely getting healthy. Now, of course, we're still missing Drew Bobo, but Tolliver played great in the SEC championship game, so I don't think that's quite a concern.
No, I don't think it's a huge concern. It it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But it does help having two healthy running backs that can take it to the house at any moment. And then when you throw in Ethan Barbour in there, he's a huge human being,
Right.
and they're going to have him at that fullback H back type, role where he's just going to be mauling people.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we've talked about the Georgia injuries. There's one injury on the Ole Miss side that's worth paying attention to, and that's Keywan Lacey. So he went out the game last week. He didn't come back. Chambliss went out too, but he came back and played. Now they're saying it's a bruised shoulder, but they've been kind of quiet about it, not really giving any more details upon that. As a running back, if you've got a messed up shoulder, man, that impacts the way that you carry the football. It impacts how you run, look for contact. Uh, I think I mentioned this before. Back in 2017, Georgia's playing Auburn in that SEC championship game, and on Johnson went into that game totally banged up with shoulder stuff, and he had those big pads on. He was not the same player, and then he fumbled later in the game. So that would be a huge loss for them because he really is. Yeah, it's Chambliss and Lacey. That's their rushing attack. So if Lacey's not there and it's just on Chambliss, that's a little bit more key. And if Georgia does like they did toward the end of the game last time and kind of shuts down their outside receiving threat, and their only running game is Chambliss scrambling around while he does make plays, that's going to limit them a lot more. Because I think they didn't rush for 100 yards in the first game in Athens either. They didn't have a lot of rushing yards in that game. So
Yeah, it was all Chambliss.
yeah, so
I mean, he was on fire that game.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah, that's a huge, huge situation there for Ole Miss because really, Keywan Lacey is really their best player,
most consistent for
most
sure.
consistent player. I mean,
Yeah,
yes, no disrespect to Trinidad Chambliss, he's been fantastic, but
yeah. Well, I think if Georgia shuts down Chambliss and makes him one dimensional, where if Lacey's not in there and Georgia kind of keys and makes sure that they don't let Chambliss break contain and keep him in the pocket, they make him one dimensional. Then that's better success because that's what Georgia did to Haynes King. Haynes King couldn't run the football, so then he tried to pass it, and they couldn't do that either. And that's a
yeah,
recipe for Georgia really shutting you down on
but
defense.
Chambliss can throw the ball.
He can. He can, indeed. But he's better. But he's better when he's got that element of running the ball because he makes
Mhm.
plays. He gets you off kilter a little bit. That's where he really shines.
Yeah.
So
Georgia's pass rush is gonna have to keep doing what it's been doing past few games. Otherwise, it could be very similar game that we saw in Athens.
yeah, I think it's going to be a different game though in Athens. That game in Athens was an anomaly where both teams were having so much success on offense. These are two teams with good defenses. Ole Miss gets crapped on for their defense. Their defense is still like probably what, top 30 in the country. It's still a good defense. Now, the one area that Ole Miss is really, really bad though is on rush EPA. I saw this on another podcast. They're 130th in the country on rush EPA, which is expected yards per average carry. And so that's the one area with the Georgia rushing game. If the Georgia rushing game is going and successful, that's one area where they could really tear up this Ole Miss defense because that's what they've been bad at. Ole Miss defense, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah. And you know Kirby wants to line up and run the ball. That's
absolutely.
that's been his MO since he's been here.
Oh, having to win 2 games this year where you had to score over 40 and the other team one game had 35 and the other game had 41. Those ain't Kirby games, man. He'd much rather
No.
be he'd much rather have the game where the offense was just okay like it was against Bama and you just tear them up on defense and win comfortably.
And special teams, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I do think Gunnar Stockton is the wild card in this game though. Because if he's on, this game could get ugly for Ole Miss.
Right. Yeah,
But
if it
if he's what he's been the last few games, then I could see it being a battle.
yeah, if he has to there's a couple of different ways, right? There's Gunnar Stockton's success game versus Tennessee and versus Ole Miss, or there's Gunnar Stockton's success versus Texas, right? Because the Texas game, it wasn't deep throws down the field. It was intermediate passes, short passes, RPOs type stuff. I think if Georgia's doing that, if Gunnar Stockton's playing that type of game, the Georgia offense is going to have a field day because they're going to
Yeah.
be able to parlay that into running the ball.
Give
And
me Texas Gunner.
yeah, yeah,
That
for sure. Even though when Georgia played Ole Miss early in the year, Georgia ran for 220 yards in that game. Ole Miss couldn't stop anything. So, you know, uh, I don't think you're going to see another game where the tight ends, where Lawson Lucky has 3 touchdowns either, though. So I think you're going to have to rely a little bit, spread the ball. Um,
Chauncey
and like I, s-
Bowens, 3
yeah,
touchdowns.
but like I said, I don't see another crazy game where everybody's scoring left and right shootouts because I think these teams both have talent on defense. I just don't see that happening. Now, does that say this is going to be like Ohio State, super low scoring? No. There's going to be points scored in this game. I just don't see it being another 38-35 type game, right?
Agreed. So, how do you see it ended up?
So Ole Miss earlier in the year in Athens played dang near flawless on offense for 3 quarters. Like not just good, perfect.
They
Like the
scored
best
touchdowns
they
every
sco-
drive.
they played the best you can possibly play. And they were winning in the 4th quarter and Georgia didn't flinch and they beat them by 8 points. Georgia is a better football team defensively. They've been moving in the right direction. They're getting healthier at key positions on offense. I think Georgia's going to win this game. I think they are just a better team. As somebody said, how you feel about Georgia right now? Georgia is kind of like Thanos. They're inevitable. At least in this game, I think they are. So I'm going to take Georgia to win 30-20.
Yeah, so you're seeing a lot more points scored in this game than I'm seeing. So I'm going Georgia 28, Ole Miss 10.
Okay.
And big reason for that is, I mentioned the stat earlier. Georgia hasn't given up more than 10 points in its last 4 games. Um, and then even against Mississippi State, who has a pretty good offense, it was 21. But like I said, there was garbage time points with the backups and stuff like that. All the reasons that you said too, getting healthy, getting players back. We've got the defense really has come into its own. I just think Georgia's defense is going to be too much for Ole Miss. And at the end of the day, Ole Miss's defense can't really stop anybody. They really haven't shown that they can. I know top 30, but when they play against a good team, like they haven't stopped anybody. So dogs on top, man.
Yep. All right, we got one more playoff game to talk about. The Orange Bowl. We've got Oregon favored by 1.5, taking on Texas Tech over under 52.5, which first off, that seems high to me. But yeah, what do you think about this game, bro?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Oregon's favored, frankly,
I'm
because
not.
when you look at the the statistics, Texas Tech is dominating on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. But this is a situation where I factor in what do I know about these programs and these teams, right? These are two of your big mercenary programs, especially this year, right? Texas Tech brought in 21 players in the transfer portal, and like 13 of them were 4-star players. Okay. Oregon brought in 11 players in the transfer portal, and those guys are contributing as well. These are two teams that spent a lot of money. But I think the difference here is we know what Oregon is as a program, and they've been building. They were number one in the country most of the year last year. They won the Big Ten. They lost to Ohio State team that was hot, right? They came back this year. They lost one game. It was at home to Indiana, who has proven to be better than everybody else on their schedule. Texas Tech, on the other hand, is this new conglomeration of players from all across the country. Like Jacob Rodriguez said, if you're going to go buy the team, why not buy the best players, right? And they have, and they've worked out. It's worked out great. Their defense is stifling, right? They don't let people score. But here's the problem. Texas Tech has played the 68th ranked strength of schedule in the country. Oregon, meanwhile, has played the 17th rated strength of schedule in the country. Texas Tech boasts 2 wins over BYU. Those are their signature wins on the season. They don't really have much else to hang their hat on. They lost
Utah.
to Utah. They lost to Arizona State, who was probably the other most talented team in the Big 12, was the defending conference champion, and they lost that game, a game that they probably should have won. Okay. Oregon, on the other hand, since losing that game to Indiana, has just been very, very consistent. Texas Tech is the great unknown here. Like I said, Oregon, we kind of know what they are. So it's just a question of Oregon went out and spent a lot of money, got 11 players to complement. They've done well. Texas Tech went out and bought 21 players, spent a lot of money. They're playing well. Who spent their money wiser and whose team is deeper is really what this comes down to.
So you're saying this year's Texas Tech team is last year's Indiana.
Could be, though I think they
I think Indiana had the 68th toughest schedule.
I
Come to
think
think of
I
it.
think Texas Tech is I think they spent more on highly talented players more than Indiana did. I Texas Tech is a good program. I don't know if their coach is as good as Signetti. I think Signetti is a better coach at this point. Not to say that Texas Tech's coach is bad. I'm not bagging on their coach at all.
I was just making the parallels of the strength
Yeah,
of schedule and being good
yeah,
and getting into the playoffs. Um, I think this is going to be a dogfight. I mean, both defenses are in the top 10 in scoring. Both offenses are in the top 10 in total offense. And while Texas Tech's defense has gotten all the press this year, Texas Tech's offense has been outstanding.
right,
Texas Tech actually has better offensive stats than Oregon,
right.
which I
And
would not have expected going into this game.
no, I mean, yeah, they're the second highest scoring team in the country, 42 points a game. Now Oregon's ninth, so it's not like it's that much difference. It's 3 points a game, but Yeah, like you said, we all know about the Texas Tech defense, but the Texas Tech offense has been equally tearing people up. But once again, is that a is that a product of their schedule? Is that a product of playing in the Big 12? Is that a product of playing a team that you absolutely owned twice in BYU that just stood no chance against them, that just didn't match up, and they absolutely stomped them twice?
I don't know. I mean, BYU almost lost to Tech in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Oh, I know. No, BYU is a good football team. I'm just saying they didn't match up well against Texas Tech, and Texas Tech blew them out twice, and that's their
Yes,
best team on
they
their schedule.
absolutely did, and that's why I point that out is, Texas Tech, while their schedule is 68th, probably better than people are actually gonna give them credit for. You've been on the Texas Tech train all year.
I love Texas Tech. I know I sound like a detractor here, but I mean I love Texas Tech. I think they're a great football team, and I think it's once again it's a grand experiment in the buying of players and bringing it together. But I just think Oregon is a better football team, and I think they're more experienced in this situation. And here's my X factor in this game: Oregon played last week. They played James Madison, and they absolutely decimated James Madison. Don't let the 17 points score that it ended up fool you. It was 35-3, and it wasn't even close. Now, what did that mean to Oregon? Oregon didn't play in its conference championship game, so they sat at home. They had their bye week. Texas Tech had to play BYU, who they'd already beaten. They had to play them again. They had to go and do that and then get their bye. Well, Oregon had their bye before. And then they played a cupcake that they absolutely destroyed. That in the second half of that game, they were sitting there starters. They were kicking back and laughing, enjoying a game that they were steadily at hand. They clicked on offense that first half, all their stuff working. They got some guys back healthy. To me, this screams a very similar situation to what Oregon was in last year. When Oregon was the number one team and had won their conference championship game in a close, tough game against Penn State, and had a week to sit at home, while Ohio State went and they were playing a better team, obviously, than James Madison, but they decimated Tennessee, beat the crap out of them, got all of their problems worked out, feeling confident. And then what did they do? They absolutely housed Oregon in the first half of that game. Not saying that's going to happen, but I can't help but feeling that Oregon playing last week and having that win is going to help them play better than they would have if they were coming off the bye. I really do.
Well, the thing that sticks out to me is that you take everything that you've said about Oregon,
Yeah.
and that makes me think that they should be favored by a lot more, but it's only 1.5,
Right.
1.5. So Vegas knows something.
Vegas knows stats, and Vegas looks at Texas Tech. And like you said, once again, scoring offense and scoring defense is fantastic. And those are always those key stats. We talked about it last week, how important it was. And even though Ohio State, went in with 2 losses last year, they were up there in both of those categories. You can't fake it if you're up there in both of those categories. So
Yeah. And it's not like they're just top 20.
no, 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 they're top 5. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really good. So I am going out on a limb. I'm going to take the Red Raiders of Texas Tech winning 35-24.
Wow.
And I just think Texas Tech, with the better having a really good offense, one of the if one of the best defenses in the country, and just historically, Oregon has crapped the bed in big games.
Yeah. So I'm going to agree with you that I think Oregon scores 24 points, but I think Texas Tech struggles on offense in this game. I'm going to take Oregon 24, Texas Tech 17. And once again, I think it's a situation Oregon will jump out to a lead. Texas Tech will try to claw back. But I think something about having played last week is going to help get them over that hump, much like it did for Ohio State last year. First half, just something that first half, Oregon's going to look better. It'll end up close, but give me Oregon 24 to Texas Tech 17.
Yeah, I just think that Texas Tech's defense is just too much. Going to shut down Dante Moore.
We shall see.
All right. Well, if you're still with us, like and subscribe. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, let us know what you think. Who do you think's going to win these games? Am I crazy for picking Texas Tech? Probably, but is what it
I don't
is.
think so. I picked them all season long, so
Yeah.
you can't be too crazy.
They're a good football team.
Indeed. The best team money could buy.
Exactly. Okay. So we've talked about our serious stuff. So now we are going to talk about the greatest bowl game in college football, the People's National Championship.
As they have self-proclaimed and put it on T-shirts.
They did. The Pop-Tarts Bowl. BYU ends up coming from behind in a great effort to beat Georgia Tech 25-21, where we saw poor Haynes King's last pass be an interception.
Haynes King, greatest quarterback in Georgia Tech history, who never beat Georgia and never won 10 games. And yeah. And his coach cried when they interviewed him at the start of the fourth quarter when they mentioned his name. This game, BYU won by 4 points. I'm going to be totally honest with you. This game shouldn't have been close. Georgia Tech offense was horrible in this game. They were absolutely dog crap in this game.
Yeah, they got a gift by getting that kickoff fumble
Right.
where the guy muffed the punt or muffed the kickoff on the 5-yard line.
They got lots of gifts. Okay. First drive of the game, BYU goes right down the field and Tech stops them on a 4th down goal line stand about an inch short of a touchdown. Okay. That was one. Later in the game, BYU was inside the Tech 10 again, and they had a guy wide open, and the guy dropped the pass in the end zone, so they ended up getting a field goal. That's 2 touchdowns. And then later in the game, they throw a interception in the end zone from like the 5-yard line. So 3 times they were inside the Tech 5-yard line and got 3 points out of that right there. So that's right there. That's 18-point difference. And then, like I said, when Tech had scored to go up 14-10, kicked it off, the BYU guy fumbled it 2-yard line, Tech ran it in. So you're gifting these points, right? Even if BYU gets half of those points, this game's not close. Georgia Tech, after they scored to go up 21-10 after that fumble, did not score the rest of the game. They couldn't do anything. That Tech offense that was great all year was stymied and shut down. And keep in mind that Tech had a chance to win it at the end, but that was only after a crazy 4th down and 15 pass where Haynes King like threw it up and the guy somehow got open. It was crazy. And they got down there and then they ended up throwing the interception. So BYU proved that they were a good football team. They played good defense in this game. They really shut Tech down. And it shouldn't have been close, but it was, and the better team still won.
Yeah. Yeah. I was glad to see BYU win. Just as a Georgia fan, made me smile.
Yeah.
And it was great because BYU's coach was definitely all in on the Pop-Tarts.
He had a Pop-Tart in about 2 seconds.
He ate lots of Pop-Tarts, and he said he was going to keep eating Pop-Tarts. It was fantastic.
I asked him about the box of Pop-Tarts for his kid. He's like, no, I'm just eating them all.
Yeah.
but the whole post-game situation was a total trash hole.
Oh my God. It was so unorganized.
The toaster kept not working, and
yeah, the toaster trophy didn't work. That took forever. Like, and it was really funny because I saw a guy like walk up on stage while it had panned out, and he was like holding his head down or whatever, and he just walked up to the toaster and flipped it up.
There was lots of good Pop-Tart shenanigans though going throughout this game. They had Pop-Tart, like, sack races and all kinds of stuff. And did they have resurrections? I didn't see.
I didn't know they did not. So no resurrections this year.
But they did have a Ring of Honor where they gave they put the Pop-Tarts, the dead Pop-Tarts names up in the
Yes.
stadium, and they gave out gold jackets and
That was hilarious. When they're trying to just throw the gold jackets on the cardboard. Oh, it was good stuff. And Team Sprinkles won. So Team Sprinkles was protein slam and strawberry, frosted cherry, and the mystery flavor, frosted cookies and cream.
so then they had to go get sacrificed in the big toaster, right?
Yes.
But
And
then
they
what
left us
happened?
with a cliffhanger.
Right, the strawberry guy took off, right? He jumped
Yeah.
out the back.
Yeah. He said he yeeted himself out of there.
Yeah, and the other 2 got devoured really quickly.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
So I guess
So yes.
that would be for next year. There was all kinds of other stuff going on in this game. They released like a mini movie that was, I think, a parody of the show The Bear, I think. Cooking show, right? Or The Pit, or one of those shows about cooking that's about chefs and
The
stuff,
bear.
and
Yeah.
The Bear. Yeah, they had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So it was fun.
Lots of fun. Always fun.
I
The
did
People's
appreciate
National Championship.
Yeah, I did appreciate some of the other bowl games trying to get a little bit in on the fun as well. I don't know if you saw this because the game was absolutely dog shit horrible. The Pinstripe Bowl between Clemson and Penn State was sponsored by Bad Boy Mowers, which used to sponsor one of the bowls in Florida, Bad Boy Mowers. But they had when they had the winning team, instead of having Gatorade, they put grass clippings in the Gatorade things and turned them on the coach. I thought that was
Oh my
pretty
god.
funny.
Well, they doused BYU's coach with mini Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I embrace all the stupidity of the bowl games. If they're gonna still be around and not be at the beginning of the season, like I suggested, embrace the stupidity. You had Snoop Dogg who sponsored his own bowl game, and
That was
then
the biggest surprise of the weekend. The Snoop Dogg Bowl.
and then during kickoff, he was doing an interview, and the guy wasn't gonna catch it, and Snoop Dogg went and tried to field the kickoff in the end zone.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yep. So bowl season can be fun, even if the games don't really mean anything anymore.
Yeah. And it was funny. I think I saw a 3-year Letterman tweet that it was about the coach going all in on the Pop-Tarts, eating the Pop-Tarts, and he's like, Nick Saban and Kirby would be all about this if they didn't make the playoff.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, they would. That was good stuff.
Yep.
All right, you want to talk a bit of news?
Yeah, just a cut. There's a couple things going on. Not as much as there has been in recent weeks, but I guess the biggest news of the week was Michigan finally found a coach.
Yeah. So it was not Kenny Dillingham, but another Ingham.
Yeah, I figured the Michigan boosters were like, Whittingham, Dillingham, close
Who
enough.
gives a shit?
I mean, but it's interesting, right? Because Kyle Whittingham, who has been the coach at Utah for 21 years, suddenly retired. And I guess it really was not a situation where he was ready to retire, that they had forced him out. And so he has been one of the most stable coaches in all of college football. And for Michigan, who's in this total horrible situation, they found somebody that's actually pretty stable to come in.
Yeah, I think it's a really good hire for them, just considering all the drama and all the scandals that
Right.
this last coaching administration has had. Like, majority of those coaches have been arrested at some point
Right.
in the
Well,
past few years.
and now you get a coach who comes in who's got 177 wins in his career. They gave him a 5-year contract, so even though he's 66, I guess he's committed to seeing this through, and they made the commitment to him. Because I thought for sure when they were hiring him, I was like, "That's going to be a short contract." Well, they gave him 5 years, so 21 years at Utah. he took over that program after Urban Meyer left, right?
He did.
And they've done good things. They've moved conferences a couple times, but have always been solid. Like I said, 177 and 88 record over those 21 years. That's his only coaching job. And so um, I think it's a great hire. They got it done before the portal opens next week, and they've lost some recruits and stuff. So they're going to probably need to bring in some guys through the portal. So it's a good chance, and that's a good name. I think it's a great hire for Michigan, honestly.
I do too. I do too. And I'm really kind of shocked that he was pushed out of Utah
Yeah, that
as
just seems weird because they were pretty
because I
good this year.
he
After
was
they
yeah.
struggled last year with injuries and stuff, they were pretty good this year. They were top.
Well,
What did
just
they finish like top 16 or something in the
yeah, it
CFP
just
ranking?
seemed like he would it would be like a Kurt Ferenc situation, right?
Right. I
Like
think he's the second longest tenured head coach. I think in FBS this year behind Kirk Ferentz. I think he
yeah,
was. So 21 years, man.
those Utes.
Yep.
What are Utes guys doing? Okay, and then we got some more portal drama.
Yeah. So what has happened at Texas, man? They had 3 pretty solid running backs that they all thought were gonna be back next year, and I know the Texas run game was trash this year. I mean, 100th in the country running the ball, but you've got CJ Baxter, Jarrett Gibson, and now Quintravian Wisner all transferring out of Texas.
Yeah, Trey Wisner transferring out was shocking to me because he's been a solid running back for them the past couple of years.
Yeah, especially last year when they struggled this year, but last year they were a good running team, and those other guys were hurt. He was kinda they had Jaden Blue then too. He was a good running back, and this was very surprising that all 3 of these guys, I think, you know, all of them high recruits out of high school, and that was gonna be a very experienced backfield for Texas next year with those 3 guys and with
Yeah, and
Manning
then
there, and then
Cooper
they're
coming in.
and their number 1 receiver's leaving too. Uh, or one of their number 1 receivers, Moore, is transferring too. So there's some interesting things going on at
Hmm,
Texas despite all this hype and stuff coming back. Um, Now what are they gonna do? Well, obviously, they've got Cooper coming in, right? But they're gonna look to the portal, I think, and one name is already lit up on their board. That's North Texas running back, um, who ran for 1,400 yards last year, Caleb Hawkins. So Caleb Hawkins from North Texas as a freshman this year, ran for 1,400 yards and 25 rushing touchdowns. Now we know North Texas was a crazy scoring offense, but that's still pretty insane numbers for a, a freshman running back there out of the state
yeah,
of Texas. So I would right now I'd expect that that's where he's headed. Texas has also been mentioned as one of those people trying to nudge Jaden Baugh to transfer from Florida, though he's not in the portal yet. So we could see some action there at the running back position at Texas for sure.
yeah. I don't think it'd be too shocking if Jaden Ball went to Texas.
No, but right now he's not in the portal, and I think Florida is doing everything they can to keep him. Um, just read some stuff that they are throwing some nice financial numbers at him to stay in Gainesville. So we'll see what happens.
We shall see.
I
All
think
right.
that's
Well,
really yeah, that's
that's
pretty
gonna
much
do it
it
for
this
us.
week. We got we got playoff action this week. There's some other bowl games still going on. From the other ones outside the Pop-Tarts Bowl, not really too much to write home about. Um, but looking forward to these games this week. Hoping that Georgia continues to play as they have down the stretch here, and looking forward to see who we've got in the semifinals in a couple weeks.
Yep. Yep. Any New Year's resolutions?
Not right now. There's probably 100 things I need to do, but I haven't picked one yet.
Yeah. Yeah. When have you put your tree up yet? Does it come down?
No, no, we just got back. We went out of town for a couple of days right after Christmas, so we just got back this afternoon. So
You gonna leave it up past New Year's?
no.
I'm actually gonna be really sad to take a tree down this year.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard, man. It's hard as your kids get older. Every year, you're like, "Up, this is this is one more year on of the magic being lost." So,
I know. Not many left, so enjoy them while you can.
yep,
All right, well, that's gonna do it for us. If you love college football, hit that like, subscribe button. We appreciate it. Tell a friend, be a friend. If you've already subscribed, why aren't you telling other people? You need to shout it on the rooftop, okay? But we'll be back here next week. Give our thoughts on the games that transpired, and maybe look at some picks for the upcoming games after that. But until then, I'm Burl.
I'm straight.
Go Dogs.
Go dogs.